Hello, my dear student. Today, let us discuss about Unit 3 Demand Analysis, Demand Meaning and its Determinant. What is the meaning of demand? Demand implies that willingness to purchase. How much or a quantity of product or the service is desired by buyers at various price. The quantity demanded is the amount of product people are willing to buy at a certain price. So, here the relationship between price and the quantity demand is known as a demand. Okay, there what is demand? The relationship between price and the quantity demanded by the consumer is known as demand. When human desire is accompanied by purchasing power, it became demand. It became demand. So in economics, demand implies that desire to acquire and willingness to pay the price. He should willing to pay the price for the goods and services. Ability to make a payment. He should ability to make a payment to the producer. So, demand implies that desire to acquire, willingness to pay the price, and ability to make a payment to the producer. A destitute may have a desire to possess a car. Destitute means a poor. A poor one, he have a desire to purchase a car. This desire cannot become a demand. Why? He is lack of necessary of purchasing power. He is not a ability to make a payment to the producer because a car is very costly to him. So this cannot become a demand. Similarly, a miser desired to possess a air conditioned bank low, also not a demand as he lacked to willingness to pay for it. A miser or a hoarder, he spent a little money to buy a goods and services. He also desired to buy a air conditioned bank, but this is also not be a demand because he is not willing to make a payment. The demand function is expressed as below. D is equal to function of price, income, price of the related goods, and T, that is taste, time, taste and preference. So D is a demand, F represent function, P represent price of the good, and Y represent income of the consumer. PR represent price of the related goods, that will be a substitute goods or maybe a complementary goods. And also T represent taste of the consumer. A silent feature of demand. Let us discuss about silent features of demand. There are so many silent features. One is willingness and the ability. Demand involves both the ability to pay and also willingness to pay, right? These are the willingness is the purely subjective. It depends on the utility of the commodity to the consumer. Ability is the objective factor. Willingness is the subjective factor as well as ability is a objective factor. Determinant. It is decided by the income of a consumer. If the more of the income, more will be demanded by the consumer, right? If the consumer have more income, he demand more. If the consumer's income is less, his demand also less. So expressed with the price. Demand is always expressed with the price. In demand schedule, the column showing the price come first after the demand is following, right? The price is independent variable and the demand is dependent variable. Price is the independent variable. As you see in the following, D is equal to F of P. So price is a independent variable and demand is a dependent variable. Demand depends on the price. And next silent feature is expressed in quantity. Demand is always expressed in a quantity. For example, 1 kg of rice, 2 kg of rice, or 1 kg of wheat, like this. You may go to the shop and you buy a milk, like 1 liter of milk, 2 liter of milk, half liter of milk, like this. So it have a some quantity. So demand is always expressed with a quantity. That's why we make usage of phrase quantity demanded. That's why we are using a phrase of quantity demanded by the consumer. It is definite amount. So quantity demanded is a definite amount. It is not a estimation or forecast. Demand is expressed in definite quantities. So expressed with times. Demand is always expressed with the time. The demand may be for few seconds or minute, hour, day, few months or few years. A demand may be a very short period in nature. It may be a short run or long run also in our nature. A demand may be a short in nature or long in nature. And involves market. Demand involves market. Market is a place where a demand and supply meets, and also a producer and buyer meet. Demand comes for the consumer and the supply is made by the producer or traders. So demand is made by the or demand is quantity demanded by the consumer or supply is made by the producer and the traders. Let us discuss about determinants of demand. Demand is influenced by the several factors. The factor influencing demand is called as demand determinant. There are various factors influencing demand, that is two types. One is economic factor and another one is non-economic factor. In economic factor, the factors are price, income, price of the related goods, income distribution, savings and money supply. All these are the factors comes under economic factor. And in non-economic factor, expenditure by the consumer, population, time period, taste and the fashion, social political conditions and the natural factors are comes under non-economic factor. Let us discuss firstly economic factor. The price of first one is price. The price of the product is most important determinant of the demand. So price is the most important determinant of the demand. Here the demand is inversely related with the price. As you know, the price and the demand have inverse relationship, negative relationship. When a price increases, demand decreases. When a price decreases, demand increases. Right? So this relationship is shown with the help of figure. OX axis represent quantity demanded and OY axis represent price of the commodity. Here P1, P and P2 are the price. M1, M and M2 are the quantity demanded. As you see, let us take an example of OP is a initial price. Okay. OM is a initial quantity demanded. When a price of a commodity, let us assume that price of the good X increases like OP to OP2. Then a quantity demanded decreases to OM to OM1, right? And also, when a price of the good X decreases to OP to OP1, the quantity demanded also increases to OM to OM2. So E1, E and E2 are the equilibrium point. E are the points which a consumer attain a goods. So when the price of the commodity increases, a demand quantity demanded by the consumer decreases. When the price of the commodity decreases, a quantity demanded by the consumer increases. And next move on to the income. Income is the most influence factor determined by the demand. Income decides the ability to purchase. As I already said, income, it should decide the ability of the purchase by the consumer. So D is equal to function of Y. Here D is dependent factor and Y is independent factor. There is direct relationship between income and the demand. That means a positive relationship between income and a demand. The rise in income leads to rise in quantity demanded. A fall in income leads to fall in quantity demanded. So here there is a positive relationship between price and the demand. So here DD is a demand curve slopes upward right to the right. It shows direct relationship between income and quantity demanded. Ceteris paribus, that is the assumption. Other things remain constant, like price of the related goods or taste and preference, it should be remain constant. When income is OY2, the quantity demanded is OM2. An increase in the income to OY3, the demand also increases, right? For example, let us make a simple point. Initial income is OY1. Okay, the initial demand is OM1. When the income of consumer increases to OY, the quantity demanded also increases to OM2. When the income of a consumer increases to OY3, the quantity demanded also increases to OM3. So, this is a positive relationship between income and the price. And here, the income demand curve for superior or normal goods having a positive slopes. Income demand curve for the inferior goods or gift good is backward bending. For example, it have a backward bending demand. As a income of a consumer increases, a quantity demanded for the inferior goods it is decreasing. Okay, so this is shown in this figure. Here OX axis represent quantity demanded and OY axis represent income of the consumer. DD is a demand curve. When a income level of is OY1, the quantity demanded is OM1. When a income of the consumer is OY1, the quantity demanded is OM. When a income of a consumer increases OY1 to OY2, the quantity demanded for a inferior good decreases to OM to OM1. Okay, this is backward bending demand curve. It is shown in this figure. So, for the inferior goods, when the income of a consumer increases, a quantity demanded by to a inferior goods is decreasing. So, it have negative relationship. And next one is price of the related goods. The price of the related good is another determinant for a demand of a demand. So this is called as cross relationship. The price of the related goods called as a cross relationship. This functional relationship is expressed in the formula like D is equal to function of PR, that is D is equal to function of price of the related goods. Related goods may be either it may be a complementary goods or maybe a substitute goods. A complementary goods like car and petrol, pen and ink, these are the example. And for substitute goods, tea or coffee, like this. Let us firstly discuss about complementary goods like tea powder and the sugar, or cement and the bricks, car and the petrol, etc. are the example for complementary goods. Cross relationship is negative in this case. The relationship between complementary goods is a negative because, as for example, the price of the tea powder rises, the demand for it also falls, right? Demand for sugar falls. Along with that, the demand for complementary, that is sugar, also falls, vice versa. Okay, that means if the price of the tea powder rises, demand for it falls, as well as a demand for the complementary goods like sugar also falls, right? These are the example for complementary goods. Let us take it one more example. If the price of the car, if the price of the petrol increases, let us take it a simple example. If the price of the petrol increases, okay, the demand for petrol also somehow it is decreases, but the demand for the price of the car is also increases because of increase in the price of the petrol. So here in this schedule, OX axis represent quantity demanded and OY axis represent price of the commodity. Okay, DD is demand curve. Here, when the price of the tea powder increases to OP1, the demand for sugar decreases to OM. Okay, when the price of the tea powder increases to OP1 to OP, the demand for the sugar decreases to OM to OM1. Okay, the price of the tea powder decreases to OP1, OP to OP1. The demand for sugar also increases to OM to OM1. So, thus cross relationship in negative in the case of complementary goods. Hence, the demand curve have a negative slopes. And in the case of substitute goods like rice and wheat, Lux and Liril, tea and coffee, Close Up and Colgate, these are the example for substitute good. The cross relationship is positive. Here, the cross relationship between the substitute good is positive. When the price of the tea increases, its demand falls, but the demand for its substitute like coffee will increases, vice versa. For example, if the price of the tea increases, the demand for tea will decrease, but the demand for coffee increases. The consumer prefer both the tea and coffee. When he going to buy a tea powder, he came to know that the price of the tea powder goes on increasing. So he prefer coffee because coffee is a cheaper for him, right? Here, OX axis represent quantity demanded and OY axis represent price of the rice. Okay. When the price of the rice increases, the quantity demanded for wheat increases. So this is the example for substitute goods. And let us move on to the income distribution. Demand is influenced by the pattern of income distribution. So demand is determined by the income distribution. In any economy where the income is concentrated in the hands of few, demand will be less. To make a simple, if a income is only hands of few, let us assume that a rich people is more than the poor people. So more money is in the hands of rich people. So here a demand is less. If there is equality in the distribution of wealth and the income, that demand shows a upward trend. So this is a income distribution. And next one is savings. Both the savings and the consumption depends on income. That is Y is equal to C plus S. Income is equal to consumption plus savings. More the saving, less will be the consumption. That means less will be the demand. Less the saving, more will be the demand. Here, if the saving is more, there is a less demand for the goods and services. If there is less savings, there is more demand for the goods and services. Though income is purely an objective factor, both the consumption and savings are influenced by the subjective factor as well as objective factors. And next one is money supply. Increased supply, increased money supply increases the demand. If the money supply is increases, then the demand also increases. But it leads to a inflationary tendency. It decreased money supply means decreased demand. Decreased money supply will decreases the demand for the goods and services. It leads a deflation, right? Increasing money supply leads to inflation, and as well as decreased money supply leads to deflation. But inflationary condition is always better than the deflationary condition. Okay, inflationary condition are always better so far as demand is concerned. As demand is now, let us discuss about non-economic determinants. Some are the important non-economic factor deciding demand. They are as follow. Expectation. If the consumer expect a fall in price in near future, present demand will decrease. If they expect a rise in price in near future, present demand will fall. Okay. The thing is that the consumer always expect that, or some of the he did a expectation like if a price of the good fall in near future, he reduce his demand in present. For example, he want to buy a car. He think that in near future the rate of the price of the car will decrease. So he postpone his buying at present. So he buying a car in near future or in 2021 or in 2022, like this. If a consumer thinks that at at near future the prices of the good is increasing, his demand at present will increases because a fear of may rise in price in near future. So these are the expectation. And also population. More the population, more will be the number of consumer, and also more will be the quantity demanded. All the multinational corporations are established in Indian market for this reason. That means India is one of the highest populated country in the world, one of the second highest populated country in the world. So that's why the MNCs, multinational corporation, multinational companies are established in India, because number of consumers are demanding more and more foreign products, some of the products produced in India, right? So there is more demand, quantity demanded by the consumer. Less population, less will be the number of consumer as well as quantity demanded. Okay, so this is a population which determine the which one of the non-economic determinant. And next one is time period. If the time is too short, the demand will be less. In the short time, demand cannot be increased, as demand by and large depends on taste, customs and behavior, which cannot be altered all of the sudden. In short period of time, short span of time, the consumer cannot alter any his taste and preference, his customs, fashions, his behavior, right? If it is long run, he can change his taste and preference. So but in the long run, demand changes due to the changes in taste, customs and behavior of the consumer. So this is time period. And next one is taste, behavior and the fashion. These all are the psychological factor influencing the demand. So these are the psychological factor which is determine the influence the demand. Our consumption largely depends on our taste and conduct, our taste and behavior, our taste and preferences. Some of the people are fond of book, whereas some are interested in collection of antique piece, collection of stamps. So fashion lovers quite often change their consumption pattern. Okay, So these are the some of the example for taste, behavior and fashion. Next one is socio-political conditions. In every rigid and orthodox society, people demand same type of goods. A modernized society aspire for a new and different product. What it means? The old or the very rigid and orthodox family, they always prefer a same commodity which is purchased in earlier also. But modern society or modern mind people, they aspire for the new and different commodities, different products. So social customs and traditions exercise a very great influence on consumer demand, right? These are the very influence on consumer demand. A policies of the government also determining the demand, right? Some of the policies formed by the government, it is also determining the demand. For example, tax concession, provisions of subsidy, etc., will increase the demand. Let us take it an example of if the government reduce the tax exercises, the holding of money will increase, right? The consumer increase the holding of money. So they can spend that money to buy goods and services for various reasons, right? These are the example for socio-political condition which is determining the consumption demand. And next one is natural factors. Climate is responsible for our food habit, dress and shelter. Wars, civil war, litigation, etc. are also influencing the demand. Drought and flood but exercise their own influence on the consumption pattern. Disease, earthquake, and tsunami, rain, hot and cold climates all play their own role in the determining the demand. Let us take it an example like if the weather condition is too hot, nowadays you feel you take an experience at present days a pattern climate is too hot, so a people is prefer more to the cool drinks, so demand for the cool drinks is more, right? So this is the natural condition. Or else if the climatic condition needs that the day after tomorrow it will be a tsunami or flood, this kind of climatic condition, so people will buy more and more to hold a food and goods and services because for the necessities. So on that time also the demand will increases. So these are the non-economic factors which determining the demand. So these are the various different variables responsible for changes in demand. So some of the measurable and some of are not measurable. So by this we completed a meaning of demand and silent features of demand, which are the silent features: willingness and ability expressed with the price, expressed in quantities, expressed with the time, and involves market. So after that we came to know what are the determinants of demand, some of the economic determinant as well as some of the non-economic determinant. So by this we completed this topic, first part of third chapter. Thank you.